Welcome back, everyone, to the next round for the Pixelmon World Championships. We are back still in the top 16. This is going to be between iPixelmon and Astral. Astral, I believe, is, I could be wrong, is it their fifth or sixth pool?
I think they're aren't they fourth seed? I thought seed. Um, Check. They're the fifth seed right now. Um,
Noted.
so Astral's the fifth seed overall right now. iPixelmon is the 12th. Our last match earlier in the day was between PokeCafe and PokeGalaxia. Both matches were very close and were actually initially very much going towards PokeCafe. But both times PokeGalaxia managed to get the upper foot right at the end, take the matches back. Um, so that was a very close match despite the seed difference between the two teams. We'll have to see if we see a similar thing here today. Um, I do believe that iPixelmon has been running some fairly varied things. I don't recall them having any specific playstyle. But Astral does have a play style. They have very much have made a name for themselves in the tournament so far as a premier user of Stole. Stole has been nerfed a
While
tiny
it's
bit in the round of 16 with Wish being nerfed. Stole is very much still going to be prevalent and as strong as always. So we'll have to see exactly how. Okay, well, it won't be as strong as always because beforehand it was 10 PP and wasn't allowed PP maxed, but now it's 5 PP and can be PP maxed to 8. So Stole is technically weaker as all recovery moves have gone down by 2 PP basically, but I suspect it'll
looks like we
probably be
won't
as
have much
strong
time
as
to
usual.
determine.
And we do have a Gliscor lead and a Landorus lead. Gliscor from Hoytman of Astral, very likely a Stole team. T from Sammy Boy 9.
That could be true, of course. We could be also looking at something else there. It's a bit hard to tell sometimes.
I do hope that part of the thing of Astral having used exclusively Stole up until this point is it kind of broadcasts what their intents are quite a lot, and may it will make if you want to make a team to fight them, it will make it slightly easier because you kind of know what they're probably going. You're going to want to bring big wall breakers. The matches that they lost in the group stages, they lost to big wall breakers. Um,
That's true, but we could be looking at just a regular Gliscor. It's a bit hard to say for sure if that's actually what they're going for.
all of their well, not all of them, but most of their still teams beforehand were running Gliscor, so I would assume that that is same as normal. Wanderers will go for the immediate U-turn, unable to really do much to this Gliscor. Interestingly, not even deciding to set up rocks or anything.
We'll have to see if this is a choice card set or if this is just choosing to opt out early. It's hard to say for certain what's going to happen here. There we go. Darkrai comes out as Gliscor goes for the Toxic. Now, this is going to be interesting as that Toxic could prove to be very helpful down the line, but it's a bit hard to say for sure what's going to happen next. We don't know if this is potentially just a regular scarf set or if it is potentially that Hypnosis set. It's very early to actually be able to properly tell. And it looks like we are waiting. There we go. Bringing in the Slow King,
Darkrai does actually
allowing
go for the
Darkrai
nasty
a nasty
plot.
plot.
Slowking will not want to stay in front of this for much longer, as even if it's running the full special defense assault vest set, a Dark Pulse here will do massive damage. Does not want to stay in front of this Darkrai for too long. But at the same time, I'm not really sure if it wants to necessarily hard switch out, because then you're going to potentially give this Darkrai opportunity to just nasty plot again. Granted, it is toxic, so this Darkrai isn't a timer. Still need to be very careful around.
While that much is true, I would have to do the proper calculations for this. Um, Things could be looking incredibly dangerous right now.
I expect there's probably a Blissey, or a Chansey. Not guaranteed, but quite likely if this is a Stall team. Which may be able to stand in front of this Darkrai if it's not running Focus Blast. If it is running Focus Blast, then at +6, it's going to hurt a lot. Darkrai will go for the Dark Pulse and Slugking will barely hang on to life as it does Chilly Reception out.
It's a bit hard to say whether or not that's going to matter too much, as that very much allows it. It looks like we were wrong about stall here, at least full stall, as we bring in the monkey. I would imagine Grassy Glide is just outright enough to KO here. Although I'm wondering if Hoytman wants to try and predict the switch here so he could U-turn. I will say, depending on the move here, this is still very much in Hoytman's court. Grassy Glide is enough to KO the Darkrai, but U-turn would very much allow a pivot, allowing something like, say, Galarian Slowking to come back in and get its health recovered.
You may see that during some of their other matches, some of the Astral members did decide to continue running full stall. Some of them also ran 4 stall Pokemon and 2 Hyper Offense Pokemon. Seeing a similar thing here. As Volcarona will come in Grassy Glide. Not proccing Flame Body, which would have been very big, as a Rillaboom that's burned is basically useless. So very, very big there that it didn't proc the burn. But it will also force this Rillaboom out, and it will probably allow this Volcarona to go for a Quiver Dance.
The question remains, though, what do they choose to pivot into? If this is this a standard offense team, or is this us more akin to something like is this potentially a wall breaking team, or are we looking once again at a balanced offense? It's hard to say for sure.
It is quite hard to say. I mean, we did see the Landorus, which is usually something that's more in mixed teams, and we have also seen a Volcarona, which can be a mixed, can be. Same with Darkrai, can be on mixed, can be on Hyper. Hard to say right now. We haven't really seen it. Both Darkrai and Nasty Plot Darkrai and a Quiver Dance Volcarona absolutely can become really scary setups. So we may see with this a team full of setup sweepers.
There we go. It looks like it was actually choosing to double switch there. Certainly a good play potentially. However, I would imagine this could be dangerous, as another toxic could continue to ruin this team.
I am curious if Sammy Boy has something that can actually switch into a toxic steel type or poison type.
There we go. Out comes the Toxapex. As Gliscor is able to set up Stealth Rocks here, I would imagine Gliscor is fairly open to either Earthquake or go for a Swords Dance, depending on the set. I would imagine in this case it is the defensive set, though, so chances are it's probably not running SD. I will say Earthquake, though, is still a very solid choice. And so we are left with a very tough choice. Out comes the Tangrowth, taking negligible damage from the Gliscor here, but very much susceptible to anything like Toxic. What I'm more curious about is what is this Tangrowth going to do?
Not sure, maybe hoping to set up on it, but it's always risky to set up on something that can just. I don't know.
There we go. Tangrowth going for the Protect to try and bait Toxic. That could be helpful in the future, although I would imagine at this point, Tangrowth would likely be either be forced to swap out into something that's already poisoned or some kind of pivot, which will make it very easy to predict. Of course, the question does still remain: what is going to happen here?
I think potentially the idea behind that protect was maybe hoping that the Gliscor would switch out, maybe thinking it could be threatened by something that and then but just in case running the protect, just in case the Tangrowth decided to stay in. Sorry, the Gliscor decided to stay in and go for Toxic. Um, the Landorus will come up back on field, taking the Earthquake and honestly not really caring, risking a Toxic.
It
Sammy
looks
Boy is
like this
really
is
struggling to break through this Gliscor. Darkrai is still a threat, but it's not going to be able to switch into a lot of Earth. And it is already toxic, so its time on the field is limited. It's going to need to be careful, and it's really probably not going to switch into the Sky Score again. If it is going to threaten it, it's going to be able to do so by something else, like slow pivoting. But I don't know if Sammy Boy even has.
it's a bit hard to say for sure. The, although it is still a tough question of how do you break through the glide score, especially when something two of your main defensive Pokemon. There we go, Aloma Mola coming in.
Andrews, does you turn out?
And so we are left with a very tough choice on what to do here. There we go. Darkrai comes in, takes a little bit of damage from Stealth Rock and Poison. Although we did see the.
Oh, I think their internet just disconnected. Darkrai will be coming in into this Lomomola. But it will start to be taking that toxic chip over and over again, as well as that stealth. Um, it cannot comfortably set up on this Alomomola, which it would to do normally. Um, but in the same breath, I don't really know if it threatens the Alomomola out. Never mind! We see the Z Focus Blast from the Darkrai, and that will bust straight through with the Alomomola, taking it out. One of the strongest pivots on the side of Hoytman is gone. Rillaboom will come back in and will absolutely threaten this Darkrai back out. We may see the Volcarona switch back in which I don't really think this Rillaboom will have an answer for. We'll actually see the Diancie come in on the opposing side as the Darkrai actually decides to stay in. Apparently, just going for this. Darkrai will go for Focus Blast, chipping that Diancie even more. We do see the Diancie decide to not Mega, not wanting to risk being a Focus Blast with those lower defenses, and will kill the Darkrai with a Moonblast.
Cinderace will come back on field. Well, back on field. It's the first time it's been on field. It will come on field and is looking to threaten this Diancie off. Gliscor will come back on field and actually would have taken quite a big chunk from Pyrobull, but unfortunately Pyrobull does miss as the Gliscor gets to come in for free and will also threaten the Cinderace off the field. Cinderace will go for the U. Also revealing that it's not Scarfed. Bringing in the Landorus, which does get Toxic. Oh! That's not what I expected. Landorus will go for Explosion, doing over half to Gliscor. Will allow something else to come in and really threaten it. Volcarona will come on field, banking on this Gliscor not on edge.
Now that is interesting, as I don't know how much damage something like Fire Dance will be able to do. Volcarona going for the Quiver Dance here. Is Gliscor going to go for yet another Toxic?
Exactly what's
There
going
we
to
go.
happen.
Gliscor going.
We may well see this Volcarona either go for another Quiver Dance, or just Fiery Dance, or
While that's true, I would imagine Fire Dance is a considerably safer option. Um, Denying this Gliscor the ability to roost nearly as much as it wants could be important. And even then, something to consider is that one of the bulkier, a good amount of the team just kind of crumples to this. At least as far as I'm aware, with Aloma Mola gone, Fire Dance can start tearing major holes. There we go, Slowking coming in as Volcarona goes for another Quiver
Ooh.
Dance.
This Slowking will not be safe to stay in.
I don't think anything really will be. The only Pokemon remaining that I could see, I would imagine this instance they potentially do want to stay in. At the very least, in the off chance that Rillaboom will be able to handle it at a later point. There we go. Fiery Dance, enough to KO as the special attack has increased yet again. At this point, your goal is to deal as much damage to this thing as possible in order to prevent it from fully sweeping your team. However, something to keep in mind is that you don't want too many of your Pokemon fainting, at least for now, so that whatever comes in doesn't have a easy time cleaning up.
And at the same time, you have two options here. Do you want to have it low enough to be in range of a, or just die from toxic damage as a whole? Think about it. With that Grassy Glide, you're risking getting burned, and that's something that could immediately put that Rillaboom out of.
While that's true, something to keep in mind is that this is the kind of trade-off that Astral might have to make here. Of course, they are taking a long time to do it. This is a tough play to make. I completely understand them taking quite a bit in order to find the best solution here.
They're certainly not in range
That
yet. I think we'll need to have two more toxic turns, I think, before it will be in range from a.
There we go, Deontay coming out, but this is +3. I would highly doubt that any kind of
Even with the resist, doesn't matter.
exactly, and if this is running Giga Drain, although it's not much, is still health recovery.
Which may give it another turn. Um, Fiery Dance again does get the special attack increase again. Nothing is living now. Volcarona, I do believe, will die to one more toxic though. But will likely
The
take
question
out
remains,
something.
though, this is a quad resist.
I think we saw it hit before, and I think it only did about 12%.
That is true. While this next Grassy Glide might be pretty significant in regards to while Grassy Glide will guarantee it dies to either toxic here, that is a ton of Pokemon gone. I believe that is Mega Deontay, Galarian Slowking, and Rillaboom here, or
And
potentially
Gliscor
something
as well.
else.
Gliscor as well. It's
Um,
four Pokemon, and they already lost the Alumamola earlier. That would leave Hoytman with one Pokemon left. Sammy Boy with multiple Pokemon left in the back. Grassy
There
Glide
we go.
crit though. Grassy Glide does get the crit. The Rillaboom will live. However, the Rillaboom does get burned. Um, that crit is extremely lucky, but that burn is extremely unlucky. The Volcarona will go down, will not be able to sweep all of Hoytman's team, but they are left with 2 Pokemon left. And the Rillaboom is kind of useless now. It's going to be hitting like
I
a
do
wet
regret
fish.
to inform you, Gliscor is in fact still alive, so chances are it is still a three Pokemon left, but
Oh yeah, I did switch up. Either way, Sammy Boy has put themselves in a fantastic here, especially with this Rillaboom getting burned. You took out the Galarian Slowking, you took out the Diancie. You have crippled this Rillaboom. That is a
while
very
that's
worthwhile trade. Cinderace will come back on field and will heavily threaten this Rillaboom.
while that's true, something to keep in mind is that I don't know how effective of a wall Gliscor is. For
It's
all we
under
know,
half. It's under half health.
um,
And I don't think it wants to switch into a Pyro Bowl here. Especially if this is
we
running
did
Sucker
see it
Punch as
miss
well.
earlier though, so
Classic Light comes out,
there we
does
go.
very
Trying to
little.
get as much chip damage as possible. Pyro Ball is enough to KO the Rillaboom.
As Hoytman will be brought down to the last 2 Pokemon. Hey boy very much has the upper hand here. We did also see that this Cinderace was not scarfed, so if it wants to, it can just pivot out. Gliscor comes back on field.
The question still remains with that clean pivot, what is actually going to happen here? Do they go for the toxic or do they go for a weakened earthquake? I would
So
imagine with Rillaboom gone though, Darkrai's barely free to come in and start threatening this Darkrai. Although I would imagine in this instance it's not quite as good of an idea as you'd
I
think, as I do believe it's low enough to be KO'd from Earthquake here.
I do also think that I was gonna say the Cinderace might just go for Pyro Ball, which is exactly what it does. Does not die from an earthquake.
There's the grassy terrain coming in clutch.
Another
I would
Pyro
imagine
Ball
this next
will
Fireball
kill. Yeah,
KO.
if it hits, yeah. Um, and this Gliscor might be in a very bad position. What do you do as Hoytman here? Do you gamble on that Pyro Ball miss? You switch. The last Pokemon that they have is Toxapex, I think.
That could be true, but
I can't
I,
recall
I would
what
imagine
side
that
was
were the
using
case.
Toxapex.
Chances are it would already be out already. I don't think he does have it.
I think
It could
I can't
potentially
recall if it
be.
was Sammy Boy or Hoytman. I know one of them had a Toxapex.
Sammy Boy had the Toxapex.
Okay. Fireball does come out and does miss.
Oh wow, that's not good.
We do see the
In
Toxapex
comes the
come back on
Toxapex
field.
though. I would imagine Toxapex would be dealing significantly. It's a bit hard to say how much damage Toxapex will be doing, as it's not particularly strong on the offensive side. I will say Earthquake, although it's super effective, likely won't be doing the greatest amount of damage either. That grassy terrain still coming in effect. It still remains to be seen though what the final Pokemon is. That could be a difference maker.
I suspect that by the fact that it's not on field yet, it might. That's very confident. Either that, or they're trying to keep some leave. Granted, we are on. Goes for the earthquake again. The Scold coming out, taking the Gliscor very low. I'm wondering if this Gliscor doesn't have root.
Chances are it probably is protect. That is a little bit bad though, with the grassy terrain ending, as that not only denies more passive recovery, it also allows Earthquake to fire at full strength again. I'm not certain how much damage this Toxapex took, but if it's
It's
if
about
it
20%.
if that is true, um, I'll have to double check the exact effects of grassy terrain. But if it's half, that could still be a pretty sizable amount of damage. Although I'm not certain if Gliscor would want to stay in.
We'll go for another Earthquake. We'll take the Toxapex very low, but Toxapex will now take out that Gliscor with another Scold. White Man will be taken down to their last remaining Pokemon, which is a Kyurem.
It looks like we were looking at a balanced team here. I would
We
imagine
have
with Earth Power.
we have, but also in the same breath, we have seen multiple sub roost Kyurems. It may go for substitute here. We've also seen that Toxapex can do just enough damage to actually break through that, as the Tangrowth will come into the the freeze dry. It is super effective and it will go down. But in the same breath, it
While
will
that's
allow the
true,
Toxapex to regenerate a large amount of health through Regenerator.
While that's true, again, Toxapex is a defensive mon, not an offensive one. I don't really think there is anything Sammy Boy could do unless there is another Pokemon left that I've been
I
neglecting.
believe they have another Pokemon.
While that's true, definitely by no means is there anything you could safely do. Um, I would imagine Freeze Dry would be coming out potentially, although I could well be wrong. This could also be the final mon if that's the case. Uh, I won't deny it's been a close match. Once again, this is the final Pokemon. There we go, going for the Baneful Punger to protect itself. What does Kyurem go for, though?
Kyurem goes for the freeze dry. Okay. So if Kyurem goes for the substitute there, that would be very bad on the top. Does regen a bit more health through Black Sludge.
How much damage will it be taking from Freeze Dry, though? That's the question.
Probably quite a bit. I don't think it's gonna live. Although a lot of Toxapex is usually the Pex set usually does have special defense invest. It's usually not enough for it. Usually specifically to resist non-stab special moves. It's not to resist.
There we go.
It does take another
One
creature and will go
Pokemon
down.
remaining.
White Man will win that first match. As Astral takes that first point. Pixelmon is in danger.
I won't deny it was a really tough match there. I would imagine if the Pyro Ball did actually hit there, it could have been an actual victory for Sammy Boy. It's a bit tough to say for sure, though.
Uh, Very likely, yes, as it would have been able to take out the Gliscor. The Cinderace would have survived and would have absolutely been able to take out that Kyurem, as it was not choice locked. That Pyro Bull miss really was quite important. Very close match there. We'll
That's
have to
just
see
how
how
it
this
goes
next
sometimes.
match
Sometimes
goes.
luck screws you over.
We do have Ant
It
Smash
looks
on the side of Astral, likely Gold Reaper 3 on the side of iPixel. Remember, if iPixelmon loses this match, they are out of the tournament.
Of course, it is tough to say what happens, though. This is a weird position to be in potentially, as if it's growing to be that close for Astral, who knows what's going to happen? I highly doubt they're holding back. They'll bring in Ant Smash and Sizar. And it looks like the battle will begin. We are leading off with Ant Smash's Gliscor once again.
You see a
I would imagine that this
Tyranitar
thing's
on Gold Reaper's side. We might see a Sand team.
I would certainly be very excited to see whether or not that actually happens, although it's a bit hard to say for sure.
We've seen quite a few Sand teams in this tournament so far. With Charizard Y being out of commission, it's been the second most popular weather type. I don't need to tell you what the first.
Of course, it is still tough to say what in particular would happen.
The Gliscor will actually hard switch out as the Tyranitar goes for the Mega and goes for the knock. Makes me wonder if Gliscor doesn't have Earthquake. Perhaps just doesn't want to risk the potential. Will knock off Ferrothorn's Chilpleberry.
That's certainly not a very common item to see on Ferrothorn, although kind of understandable given the amount of things like Tapu Lele.
That's the fighting type.
Yes, I will say that much. What does this Tyranitar choose to go for, though?
I don't know. Ferrothorn could potentially threaten damage with a Power Whip, but honestly, I would be more scared of a Thunder Wave or a Toxic here. Tyranitar will switch out as the Zapdos comes in as leads are planned.
That's a funny little thing here. The Sandstorm, oh, actually, it does look like it is buffeted. Something I'm a little unsure about is what is going to come out next, as HP Ice very much threatens.
I'm expecting a Heat Wave from the Zapdos. Even the mere idea that the Zapdos might be running it, even if it's not, it will likely force. As it's not something you want to stay in to find out if it does actually happen. Garganacl will come in, taking the Heat Wave, which is a crit, but it still does next to nothing.
That is true. Something I'm a little uncertain about is what is going to happen here as Stealth Rock is certainly an option, but we could also see Salt Cure and Recover. There we go.
Do you
In
see
comes the
Iron
Iron
Valiant
Valiant.
coming in, looking to threaten this Garganacle out? I'm not sure if this is a Sand team, as Iron Valiant and Zapdos aren't common things to put on a Sand team. They're more just generalist Pokemon.
It will be said a good amount of the team is a good amount of Ant Smasher's team is immune to Sandstorm just due to their natural typing.
In fact, some of them, like this Garganacle, actually gets a boost.
That is true. That could potentially be why we see the Iron Valiant coming out. Out comes the Toxapex as Valiant goes for a Moonblast. Pretty sizable damage here, though. Could this potentially be Specs?
Possibly, but if it is Specs, it won't be Specs too much, as it'll be locked into Moonblast, and that will be recoverable through. However, if it's not Specs, A, that was a lot of damage, and B, if we're going to see a Psychic type move here, that will break through this Specs in.
Of course, it is still a tough decision, though. Ooh.
The Iron Valiant must switch
There we
out.
go. Bring in
I
the
think
Pharaoh.
it was choice locked, as we do see the Ferrothorn switch in. Now, while the
Surprisingly enough,
Ferrothorn,
I do think Garganacle's a pretty solid Ferrothorn counter, as I will say, oftentimes Salt Cure does do about a quarter of Pharaoh's health.
it does hurt quite a bit, but in the same breath, you don't exactly want to switch into a Ferrothorn as Garganacle, or risking taking a Power Whip, which is not something you want to be taking willy nilly. If you have a free switch in, you should be pretty fine. But you don't want to risk taking extra damage. We'll likely see this Toxapex switch out as, although Ferrothorn can't really threaten a Toxapex, Toxapex also can't really threaten a Ferrothorn. So I expect one, if not both of these Pokemon to switch out on this. Toxapex actually taking the opportunity to set Toxic Spikes as we see spikes set up by Ferrothorn.
It looks like this place is becoming a minefield now, as one of these trainers will have to bring something in to remove these hazards. I would imagine Toxic being a lot more devastating, though. This is a tough choice to make. I will say, Ant Smasher is very much at the advantage here.
Scald coming
There we
out,
go.
likely
Toxic
fishing for
Scald, trying to
burns.
fish for burns.
Yeah.
As
Seed.
Leech Seed is being planted. Ooh, this could be interesting.
I still don't think that's going to change any break points, but it will, at least for now, basically nullify that black slug.
There we go. Toxapex going for another Scald, very desperately trying to go for burn fishing. I don't think there is a black sludge. I think this might be Boots. Toxapex could well be forced to either go for a recover or go for a switch. Still trying to fish that skull burn as a
Ooh.
power whip also comes out.
Toxapex says, "Oh my goodness, that was definitely a roll there." As Toxapex barely survives. As the Gliscor will come in, as Fairthorn takes the
lived on one.
opportunity to set more spikes.
That is incredibly unfortunate on iPixelmon's end. In comes the Zapdos as Defog allows it to clear all the hazards. I'm not certain how much that matters. Might potentially be beneficial depending on the team lead up here. I will say I did see the heat wave earlier, but chances are I will need a little bit of clarification here. Does purifying salt prevent hazards from something like discharge or heat wave?
As in the secondary effects, yes, it does. It is completely immune to statuses.
I see. Okay, good to know. Um, because I remember Good as Gold having a similar but different property. Gliscor coming in, and that is huge. Sulcure will probably be able to deny the toxic orb. However, I would suspect that chances are, depending on the set we're looking at here, this could be the Swords Dance set. In which case, this could get pretty spicy.
We do see the Curum come out the other side as Gliscor does go for the Sword Stance. This may well have Stone Edge in there, and if it does, this Curum is not a good spot.
That is true, but once again, Freeze Dry is going to completely eviscerate a Gliscor here. Unless it chooses to swap out, but even then, that's kind of predictable. I'm not certain if Sub Roost is the play.
Really depends on the speed invest of this.
I do think Curum is naturally faster.
Yeah, of course, but if if you're running the Sword Stance set and Glide, likely gonna have speed invest. So if this Curum doesn't have speed, the Gliscor will outspeed, but that doesn't matter. The Gliscor will the Gliscor will switch out as Curum goes for Ice Beam. As the Tyranitar comes in and takes it, and he doesn't really care.
That's actually a little bit surprising.
It's likely the special defensive. Well, that's the Ice Beam. Then this is likely not the Sub Roost set. This is likely the full special attacking set: Freeze Strike and Ice Beam. Usually there's Draco in there as well.
While that's true, Ice Beam coming out again, enough to faint it actually.
Ooh.
I do think there was a slight
Display
I think there
issue.
might have been a slight issue with my health. In comes Valiant though.
There will be actually be a spec set on this Curum, by the way.
If that's the case, if Valiant goes for the read here, if they get this call right, there could be a significant advantage. Another thing to consider actually is I don't think. Well, I guess it will have health thanks to Regenerator. In comes the Pharaoh. as Moonblast comes out, dealing pretty negligible damage, which is unfortunate.
We already have established that this is likely a choice locked point as well. If it has a fighting type move, it probably would have been better to use that, as you would have threatened the Cure and also threatened the Pharaoh switch in as well. But if you're choice locked into Moonblast and you're in quite a rough position here, you are very much in risk from the Parathorn, whether it be a Gyro
That's
Ball
true.
or a
Something to
Power
keep in
Whip.
mind. I don't know how much damage a fighting move would have done against Gliscor. Potentially, they were trying to read for that instead.
Probably. Brilliant. We'll switch out, bring in the
Bringing Cortana
Cortana,
in,
the Leech
this
Seed to
could
fail.
be pretty interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what move it has. More importantly, is this Sash or is this Sword Stance?
No, we'll go for the knockoff. Knock Gliscor's Toxic Orb. Not that that really matters. As it will be forced out, bringing in the Zapdos. Gliscor going for U-turn, not getting the stat. Cure will switch.
I don't think it really matters. Thanks.
Oh right,
to,
yeah, yeah. It wouldn't matter, and also it's a ground type. Gliscor will come in, taking the Ice Beam and going down. I think this is probably. I don't think it's necessarily over, but Gold Reaper is in one hell of a corner.
That is true. But what I'm not certain about is what they'll go for here. Here comes the Pharaoh. I honestly, Moonblast might just straight up be enough.
Another Moonblast will be, yeah. Pharaoh will either have to just die here or will have to switch out if it wants to live.
Choosing to sack here, very respectable choice. What is going to come in response? Probably the Toxapex, right?
I would assume so, especially when it's locked into Moonblast like this.
Although, granted, choosing to bring Lopunny in, actually, not a bad choice. I do think this, unless this is actually a Choice Scarf instead, because all we've really seen to use is Moonblast. Iron Valiant coming in, probably trying to to potentially make it think it's in specs. Although it's hard to truly say. Return dealing pretty sizable damage and probably just outright knocking out the Zapdos here.
Not getting the static proc either.
That is unfortunate. That would have been incredibly helpful for completely pulling off a sweep. Out comes Cortana though. Certainly a bold choice. could this potentially be the sacred sword scarf set maybe? Trying its
There's also just a chance that Gold Reaper doesn't have anything better. Already lost multiple Pokemon.
there we go.
We do
Choose
get a
we
double
bring in
switch.
Pharaoh instead as Gliscor comes in. This is an interesting choice to make. There we go. Leech Seed has been planted. I don't know what's faster here though. With that Leech Seed rock,
See the Gliscor coming in, taking the Power Whip, but honestly not taking too much damage. I actually don't know what would do more damage here: the Earthquake from the Gliscor or the Power Whip from the Ferrothorn.
I would wager it's probably one could reasonably argue it could be neither. Do keep in mind, as long as I would probably say, rather than something like Power Whip, I expect Leech Seed to potentially be coming out, allowing that extra recovery as well as denying Toxic Orb could prove to be incredibly useful here. In goes the Toxapex as Ferrothorn lays another set of spikes. It's a bit hard to say if that'll actually matter though, given that once again Valiant coming in, I don't see how much damage that took. Could we potentially be looking at a psychic move coming out here? Because I would imagine if that were the case, that could be devastating
Would be that could
toward
that could sweep actually, very well sweep.
it depends though, as with the Mega Lopunny still alive, as well as a little bit of damage from Scald, I do think despite what it looks like, Valiant is still threatened out. I'll have to double check. That is 30%. Chances are in that kind of situation, we could be I would expect a fake out to potentially KO. The I would argue Scald is also relatively free here, unless we see a surprise Psychic or Thunderbolt. Garganackle comes in, and we get confirmation now it is Thunderbolt. I think that will at most do a solid I want to say at least a third. Problem is though, with Garganackle in play, I suspect what's gonna happen is Sulcure would be enough KO here, and something to keep in mind, once again, that Sulcure is gonna be dealing major damage, um, at least residual toward that not Garganackle, sorry, Pharaoh. I don't know if there's any safe option to use here. There we go, withdrawing the Iron Valiant. In comes a Kartana. As Garganackle goes for the recover, I would say at this point, Cortana is actually fairly free to start going for swords dances here and trying to get us and try to be dealing as much damage as possible. Although I could very well be wrong, and this could be a scarf set. It's hard to say for sure, but no matter what happens, I would expect
We'll just start going for Leaf Blades, almost killing Garganackle outright. Garganackle will barely survive though. And it does start getting Salt Cure Chip.
While that's true, trying to keep things chipped as low as possible could be vital for that Valiant to either start clearing things out or maybe something else as well. As I don't know. There we go. Out comes the Garganackle of their own. As Kieran comes in. Actually, I was wrong. Actually, Valiant coming in instead. Uh, this could be interesting. As depending on what happens here, the right play could just straight up make all the difference here. Probably enough to KO a good amount of things. It could be toxic. It could also be Moonblast. It could even be that unknown fighting move that we don't know.
It even
There we go. Garganaco coming in, hurt by spikes. As we know now, it went for the Moonblast. I would imagine in this situation, once again, fairly free to start for the Megalopony to just go for the fake out here. Toxpex coming out. What is the play to? What do they go for here? That's what I want to know. Toxapex with Toxapex being down, I would imagine there's plenty of options to go for. Out comes the Ferrothorn, finally getting the Scald Burn. Although it is a bit hard to say what will actually be being brought out to try and counter this. There we go. Ferrothorn laying the toxic spikes, but I don't really know how much that actually matters at this point. As Leech Seed misses, that could be that is pretty bad.
the Reaper is in quite the corner here.
Now, this is a tough decision to make, as as long as that Megalopony is alive, I would imagine Ferrothorn can't really comfortably go for anything, as I would imagine close combat just straight up KOs it. There we go. Out comes the Toxpex. In comes the Gliscor. As Ferrothorn is continuing to lay down the spikes, we could see a Defog come out here. However, is that a risk Gliscor wants to take, or do they just want to try and go for something else? There we go. Gliscor going for the defog to clear all the hazards. As Ferrothorn misses another leech seed. Uh, this is not. I'm not gonna lie. This is not looking good for gold here.
Gold is already in a really bad situation, and each one of these misses is just piling on top of that. It's really not helping.
There we go. Out comes the Iron Valiant, finally KOing the Iron Valley, which is pretty important here. Carpana coming back out, but I'm not sure if this is damage you want to take, especially given the fact that at any moment, if the wrong play is made, Sammy Boy could just straight up, sorry, not Sammy Boy, sorry, I would wager Ant Smash at any point could just choose the right option. There we go. Earthquake dealing pretty meaningful damage there. Um there we go. Earthquake does KO Kartana here. And this is the final Pokemon. There we go. As Gliscor goes for the roost. What does Ferrothorn go for here? Going for the Power Whip, dealing pretty much nothing. There we go. Gliscor going for the Earthquake. Ferrothorn planting Leech Seeds here. I do think that is recovering 12% of its health every single turn. It's tough to say for sure. Earthquake deals another solid amount. I do think Gliscor will be able to. I think Gliscor will be able to safely 1v1. This burn is very much helping its case here. Choosing to go for the U-turn instead, as Kyurem comes out. What does Pharaoh go for? Going for another Power Whip.
Gurm is out to just finish this faster as the Ice Beam comes out, almost taking out the
Ice Beam
Ferrothorn.
misses. Gyro Ball, that bird coming in clutch. And Ice Beam
one
is
more
going
Ice
to be
Beam
enough
will be
to finish
enough.
the job here.
As Gold Reaper already saying GG, we will actually see the Gliscor come back in though.
At this point, I don't really know what Gliscor is doing in this case. There we go. I think it was an unfortunate misclick with that defog, but that Earthquake will be enough. And I believe that will allow Astral Pixelmon to move on to the top 8 here.
That will mean that iPixelmon is knocked out of the tournament. So far, every single match we've had has gone as the seeds have predicted they would. I'll have to see if the matches coming will have a different story. For now, though, that is the end of the matches that we have today. We do have more matches coming up later in the week. We have one match tomorrow between Hollowed Fantasy and Hexagon MC. One match the day after that between Smash MC and Hex MC, and one match the day after that being Poke Saga and Poke Valley. That will be the round of 16 over after those three matches. For for Astral Pixelmon, they are going to be fighting Pixelmon FR in the quarterfinals. which will be likely in about a week's time. For exact scheduling information, you can come onto the Discord and come find that out there. You can find the Discord link on the website. Also on the website is the sponsor stuff. If you wish to put any input into the prize pool at all, or if you wish to just support the tournament as a whole, that's where you do it. Thanks as always to the servers that popped in today to do their fights, as well as the refs, organizers, and all that stuff. For now, though, that will be the end of our matches for today. I have been your commentator, Alba.
I've been your commentator, Delta, and we'll continue to see you guys with live footage of the tournament as things happen. We'll see you all then.
Bye. See you then.